What's wrong?
Please forgive me. I beg you.
The church was filled with quiet power. White roses lined the aisle like silent witnesses. Crystal chandeliers reflected golden light across polished marble floors. Cameras flashed softly. Every seat was filled with investors, board members, politicians, and media. This was not just a wedding. This was a merger. Victor Wright stood at the altar in a sharp black suit. His face showed no joy, only control. Today was meant to save the Wright Foundation. After his father's conviction 5 years ago, their reputation had never fully recovered. Donations dropped. Sponsors disappeared. Whispers followed their name everywhere. But today was supposed to change that. The marriage between Victor Wright and Elise Hawthorne would unite two powerful families and silence every rumor. The music began. All eyes turned toward the doors. The bride walked in slowly. Long white gown. Cathedral veil covering her face. Graceful. Elegant. Perfect. Victor did not smile. This was not love. It was strategy. The priest spoke gently. Victor, you may lift the veil. Victor reached forward. His hands were steady. He lifted the veil. And the world stopped. It was not Elise Hawthorne. It was Iris Cole. The woman who had testified in court. The woman whose words sent his father to prison. Victor's breath became heavy. The guests began whispering. Leonard Hawthorne sat in the front row. He did not look shocked. He looked calm. That was the most frightening part. Victor leaned slightly closer. What is this? He asked quietly. Iris looked directly into his eyes. I signed the contract. The ceremony did not stop. That was the strangest part. No one rushed forward. No one shouted. The priest continued speaking as if nothing was wrong. Victor's mind raced. Where was Elise? Why was Leonard calm? Why was Iris here? The contract between the families had been finalized weeks ago. A 1-year arranged marriage. No scandal. No divorce. Public unity. In return, the Hawthorne Foundation would inject millions into the Wright Foundation, saving it from collapse. Victor whispered, "This is a joke." Iris replied softly, "No. Where is Elise?" She stepped away. Victor looked toward Leonard Hawthorne again. Still calm. Still composed. Something felt planned. After the vows were exchanged, the applause sounded forced. Photographers rushed forward. Victor leaned close again. "You destroyed my family." Iris did not look away. "I told the court what they showed me." "You testified against my father." "I testified against documents," she answered. Victor's jaw tightened. "I would never agree to marry you." "You didn't," she said quietly. "The contract allows substitution under Clause 7. Victor froze. Substitution. He had signed without reading every clause carefully. He trusted the lawyers. Trusted the Hawthornes. That was his first mistake. The Wright estate felt different that night. Bigger. Colder. The wedding guests were gone. The cameras gone. The fake smiles gone. Only silence remained. Victor walked through the hallway slowly. Iris stood near the grand staircase, holding a small suitcase. "I'll stay in the East Wing," she said. "This is not your home," Victor replied. "It is legally mine for 1 year." The words sounded like steel. Victor stopped. "You ruined my father's life." Iris inhaled slowly. "I ruined nothing." "You testified that he transferred illegal funds." "I testified that the bank records showed transfers." "You signed your name." "Yes." "And you believed it was true." She hesitated. Then said, "I believed the evidence." Victor stepped closer. "My father has never stolen from anyone." Iris looked at him carefully. Then someone made sure it looked like he did. Victor turned away. He did not want to believe her. But something in her voice did not sound guilty. It sounded tired. 2 days later, Victor visited his father. The prison smelled of cold metal and disinfectant. His father looked older. Thinner. But his eyes were steady. "You married Hawthorne's daughter?" his father asked. "Yes." A pause. "But it wasn't Elise." His father studied his face. "Who?" "Iris Cole." Silence. His father leaned back slowly. "The witness." "Yes." Victor's voice hardened. "She stood in court and described fake transfers. She looked confident." His father nodded slowly. "The evidence was perfect." Victor frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means someone designed it carefully." "You're saying you were framed?" His father looked directly at him. "I am saying that money moved in ways I did not authorize." Victor's heartbeat grew louder. "Why didn't you fight harder?" "We did. But the timestamps matched. The accounts matched. The signatures matched." He paused. It was too perfect. That sentence echoed in Victor's mind all the way home. Too perfect. That night, Victor found Iris in the library. Old court documents spread across the table. Highlighted lines. Sticky notes. Bank transfers printed out. He stood in the doorway. "You're studying the case?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because something bothered me." Victor crossed his arms. "You had 5 years to feel bothered. I didn't have access to all documents until now." He stepped closer. "You expect me to believe you didn't know?" "I believed what I saw," she said calmly. "And now?" She looked up at him. "Now I see gaps." "What gaps?" "The transfer to your father's account happened after the alleged business deal." Victor's expression shifted slightly. "That's impossible." "It's documented." She slid the paper toward him. Victor looked at the timestamp. His stomach tightened. "If this is true," he said slowly. "Yes," Iris whispered. "If this is true, then someone constructed the timeline." Silence filled the room. For the first time, Victor did not see the enemy. He saw someone searching for answers. And for the first time, he felt uncertainty. Not anger. Uncertainty. And that was more dangerous. The mansion library became their war room. Stacks of documents covered the long wooden table. Bank statements. Court transcripts. Foundation reports. Victor stood on one side. Iris on the other. Still distant. But no longer enemies. They began reviewing financial trails together. Quiet. Focused. The name appeared again. Redwood Holdings. A company that did not exist before the trial. And disappeared shortly after. Victor frowned. "I've never heard of this." "You wouldn't," Iris replied softly. "It was registered 3 months before the alleged transfer." Victor leaned closer. "Who signed for it?" Iris traced the document. Proxy director. No real name. Offshore address. Victor exhaled slowly. "Shell company." "Yes." The room felt heavier. If Redwood was fake, then the transfer that convicted his father could have been created. Victor looked at Iris differently now. "You didn't know this before the trial?" She shook her head. "No. We were only shown summary reports." "Who showed them to you?" She answered quietly. "Leonard Hawthorne's legal team." Silence followed. And something began to shift. They drove together to meet Daniel Reed, the second man convicted with Victor's father. Daniel lived in a small apartment far from the city center. He opened the door cautiously. Victor spoke first. We believe you were framed. Daniel laughed once. Not from humor. From exhaustion. I've been saying that for 5 years. He looked at Iris. You were the witness. She nodded. Yes. Daniel studied her face. You look different. I know more now, she replied. Daniel stepped aside. Inside, he showed them old emails. Screenshots. Copies of meetings. There was pressure, Daniel said. Leonard wanted full control of the foundation. Your father refused. Victor felt heat rise in his chest. You're saying this was about power? It always is, Daniel answered. On the drive home, silence filled the car. But it was no longer angry silence. It was shared realization. That night, rain fell against the windows. Victor remained in the library reviewing numbers. Iris brought coffee quietly. You've been reading for hours, she said. He looked up. You stayed too. She placed the cup near him. I feel responsible. You didn't create the evidence. But I confirmed it. Victor studied her face. There was no manipulation there. Only guilt. He spoke more softly than before. You were used. She looked surprised. I don't need sympathy. It's not sympathy, he replied. It's truth. The rain grew louder. For the first time, they sat on the same side of the table. Close. Shoulders almost touching. Neither moved away. The deeper they searched, the clearer the pattern became. Redwood Holdings transferred funds. Then those funds were mirrored in Victor's father's account. But the timestamps were reversed. The crime was built backwards. Iris leaned back slowly. If we expose this, Leonard will lose everything. Victor nodded. So will we. The Wright Foundation depended on Hawthorne funding. Sponsors trusted Leonard. Media respected him. If they went public, the foundation could collapse. Victor could lose his inheritance. Iris could be investigated again. She asked quietly, do we stop? Victor walked to the window. City lights reflected in the glass. My father lost 5 years. He turned back toward her. I won't lose my courage. Her breath slowed. You're willing to lose everything? He looked at her carefully. Yes. The air shifted. This was no longer about revenge. It was about justice. The investigation slowed. They waited for confirmation from a forensic accountant. The tension in the house changed. Less hostility. More awareness. One evening, the power went out during a storm. The mansion went dark. Only emergency lights glowed faintly. Iris stood still in the hallway. Victor approached. You're afraid of storms? He asked. No, she answered. I'm afraid of silence. He understood that. He said quietly, I don't think you are what I believed. She looked up at him. And you are not what the court described. A pause. The space between them felt smaller. Victor reached toward her hand. Then stopped. Not because he didn't want to, but because he respected the moment. She noticed. And that restraint said more than touch could. He spoke softly. When this ends, you don't have to stay. Iris' voice lowered. And if I want to? Silence. Not uncomfortable, but charged. The storm outside softened. And something else grew quietly inside the house. Not trust. Not yet. But something close. The Wright Foundation annual benefit was the biggest event of the year. Crystal chandeliers lit the ballroom in gold. Politicians, investors, journalists, and donors filled the room. Cameras waited. Leonard Hawthorne stood near the stage, calm as ever. Confident. Untouchable. Victor adjusted his cufflinks slowly. Iris stood beside him in a simple but elegant black dress. Not flashy. Not decorative. Strong. Last chance to walk away, Victor said quietly. Iris looked at him. If we walk away, your father stays a criminal. He nodded once. Then the announcer called his name. Victor walked to the stage. Applause followed. He stood behind the microphone. For a moment, he looked like the perfect successor to a respected foundation. Then he spoke. I would like to thank Leonard Hawthorne. Leonard smiled. For teaching me how shell companies work. The room grew silent. Iris stepped forward. A large screen behind them turned on. Bank transfers appeared. Redwood Holdings. Mirrored transactions. Reversed timestamps. Victor continued calmly. These documents show that my father's conviction was built on manipulated transfers. Leonard stood up sharply. This is defamation. Victor did not raise his voice. It is forensic evidence. Iris added. The transaction labeled as illegal occurred after the alleged agreement. It was created to appear earlier. Whispers filled the room. Phones began recording. Leonard's expression changed for the first time. Not calm. Not confident. Afraid. Security officers entered quietly. Not dramatic. Not chaotic. Just firm. Leonard tried to step away from the stage. Gentlemen, this is unnecessary. One officer spoke clearly. Mr. Hawthorne, we have a warrant for financial fraud and obstruction of justice. Gasps echoed through the ballroom. Investors stood. Board members whispered urgently. Leonard looked at Victor with controlled anger. You think this saves you? Victor answered quietly. It saves the truth. Leonard was escorted out. Cameras followed. Within minutes, the news spread. Stock values dropped overnight. Sponsors suspended partnerships. The Wright Foundation's stability shattered. But something else began moving. The court reopened Victor's father's case. Daniel Reed's conviction was reviewed. Everything was shifting. Weeks later, the courtroom felt different. The atmosphere was not hostile. It was cautious. New forensic analysis confirmed it. Redwood Holdings was a shell company, controlled through a private trust linked to Leonard Hawthorne. The timestamps were falsified. The digital signatures altered. The judge spoke clearly. The convictions are overturned. Victor's father closed his eyes slowly. Daniel Reed lowered his head in relief. Years of damage could not be erased. But their names were clean. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. Victor stood beside Iris. You were right, he said quietly. She looked at him. We were right. That was the first time he said we. Victory did not feel loud. It felt quiet. The Wright Foundation collapsed under financial pressure. Without Hawthorne backing, funding disappeared. The estate was sold. The staff dismissed. The name Wright lost its power. One evening, Victor stood in the empty living room. Boxes lined the walls. Iris approached slowly. The contract ends in 3 months, she said. He nodded. You're free. So are you, she replied. He turned toward her. For the first time in my life, I'm not choosing based on strategy. Silence filled the room. Iris, he said carefully, if Elise had walked down that aisle, I would have married a solution. She held his gaze. But you didn't, she said softly. He stepped closer. I married the only person who told me the truth. Her breath slowed. You hated me. I was wrong. Another step closer. I don't want to build another foundation. He paused. I want to build something honest. With you. Months later, Victor and Iris stood inside a smaller office space. No marble floors. No chandeliers. No press. Just simple desks. Transparent financial boards on the wall. They created a new nonprofit. Focused on legal advocacy for wrongfully convicted individuals. Quiet work. Real work. No hidden sponsors. No secret trusts. One afternoon, Iris asked, "Do you regret losing everything?" Victor looked around the modest room. Then at her. "I didn't lose everything." He took her hand gently. "I lost what was false." Outside the window, the city moved on. No headlines. No applause. Just peace. And sometimes, the person you thought ruined your life is the one who saves it.